I didn't expect her voice to linger. It was just 4 words. "Come water my garden," tossed over the fence like she was asking me to grab the mail. But somehow, it stayed in the back of my head, steady as a heartbeat. She lived 2 doors down. Miss Hartley. 40-something, maybe older. The kind of woman who carried herself like she'd been through enough storms to know which ones mattered. I saw her most evenings, clipping roses or tugging weeds with her sleeves rolled up, hair tied but always slipping loose. She didn't dress to be noticed. Which was exactly why I noticed. I told myself it was nothing. She was my neighbor. I was 22, just out of college, figuring out how to afford rent and bad groceries. She probably only asked me because I had strong arms and too much free time. But when she leaned against the fence that day, one hand on her hip, eyes narrowing like she was measuring me for something more than just carrying a watering can, I felt it. The kind of pause that makes you forget what you were supposed to say. "Sure," I'd answered, a little too quickly. That night, I lay awake listening for the creak of her back gate. Nothing. Just cicadas and a distant TV. Still, I couldn't shake it. Her tone wasn't about flowers. The first time I stepped into her yard, it was like walking into a world she'd built to keep herself hidden. Neat rows of tomatoes, lavender edging the stones, a single lawn chair tucked into a corner where you could sit and not be seen from the street. Quiet, self-contained, like she wanted company but wouldn't admit it. I poured water slow, dragging it out, as if the garden needed more than it really did. She watched from the porch steps, arms crossed, pretending to check her phone. I caught her glance once, too long, then too quickly gone. "Don't drown them," she said. I laughed, nervous. "Right. Rookie mistake." The corner of her mouth lifted, not a full smile, but something in between. And then silence stretched between us, comfortable but tense. Like neither of us wanted to name what was starting. She didn't invite me inside. Not then. I said goodbye at the gate, and she nodded like she hadn't already been thinking of me standing there. But the thing about silence is it doesn't end when you leave. It follows you. I found myself slowing down every time I passed her house, waiting for the faint sound of a radio through her kitchen window, or the flicker of her lamp in the front room. Sometimes I'd see her leaning over her sink, rinsing a glass. She never waved. She didn't need to. I kept asking myself why she chose me. Maybe because I looked harmless. Maybe because she wanted someone who wouldn't ask questions. Maybe, and this is the part one didn't let myself think too often, maybe she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. It should have been simple. A neighbor helping with chores. But the way her eyes lingered, the pause before she spoke, the way her voice dipped low when she said my name, none of that was simple. The third evening I went to water the garden, she didn't come out right away. I almost thought she wasn't home. I was halfway through the tomatoes when the porch door creaked. She stood there, barefoot, hair damp like she'd just showered. No phone in her hand this time. Just watching. "You missed a row," she said softly. My throat went dry. "Guess I'll have to stay longer." Her gaze held mine, longer than before. And then the doorbell rang. The doorbell rang like it didn't belong. Too loud for the quiet she'd built around herself. She didn't move right away, and for a second I thought maybe she'd ignore it. Then she exhaled, slow and sharp, and disappeared inside. I stood in the garden, pretending to focus on the hose, but my ears strained for every sound. A man's voice, low, carrying through the open window. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was familiar, practiced, casual, like someone who thought they still belong. When the door shut again, I saw her through the screen. She leaned against it with her head tipped back, eyes closed, hand pressed to her chest. Not for long. The moment she noticed me watching, she straightened, slipped her mask back on. "An old friend?" I asked, careful. She tilted her head, almost amused. "Something like that." Then, softer, as if to herself. Not worth watering. I didn't push. But I carried the image with me, her shoulders sagging, the quick rearranging of her face. Like someone who had practiced shutting doors, inside and out. I kept coming back. At first, because she asked. Then, because she didn't. The more time I spent there, the more pieces I caught. The faint tan line where a wedding ring used to be, the stack of unopened letters on her counter when she forgot to close the kitchen blinds, the way she avoided talking about weekends. One evening, as I coiled the hose, I asked, "Why me?" She was sitting in that lawn chair in the corner, sipping something clear from a short glass. She raised an eyebrow. "Why not you?" "I don't know. I don't exactly scream reliable neighbor." "You show up," she said simply. "That's more than most." Her words should have been comforting, but instead they sat heavy in my chest. Show up. Like she didn't expect much else from people anymore. And yet, I wanted to give her more. I wanted to ask what happened, who had left, what she regretted most. But every time I opened my mouth, the weight of the gap between us held me back. 22 to 45 isn't just numbers. It's different records on the shelf, different years you call the best of your life, different ways of counting what you've lost. I told myself she saw me as harmless. But harmless boys don't keep track of the way a woman's voice dips when she says their name. That night, I finished with the garden and lingered by the gate. "You ever regret asking me to help?" I asked. She paused mid-sip. The glass clinked softly as she set it down on the arm of the chair. For a moment, I thought she'd shut me out with a laugh or a sharp deflection. Instead, she looked at me, really looked. Her eyes softened, almost fragile. "Not yet," she said. The quiet stretched again, longer this time. My hands itched with something reckless, to close the space, to test if her skin felt as warm as it looked in the dusk. I didn't move. Neither did she. But when I turned to go, she reached out, brushing her fingers lightly against my wrist as I passed. Just a fraction of a second. Just enough to burn. The brush of her fingers stayed with me longer than it should have. I replayed it all night, not even a kiss, not even a real touch, but enough to keep me awake, staring at the ceiling. The next afternoon, I almost convinced myself not to go back. I told myself I'd give her space, that maybe she meant nothing by it. But then I saw her in the driveway, tugging a heavy bag of soil from her trunk, and my feet carried me over before I could stop. "Let me get that," I said. She didn't argue. She just stepped aside, eyes flicking toward the street like someone might be watching. Inside the garage, where the air smelled of earth and paint, she finally spoke. "You shouldn't come so often. People talk." "Who's talking?" Her lips pressed tight. "Doesn't matter. They will." I set the bag down harder than I meant to. "So? Let them." She looked at me then, sharp, almost angry, but underneath it something else, fear. "You don't understand. I've lived here 20 years. You've been here what, for months? You'll move on." "I won't." The words stung. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I wasn't some kid passing through. But the gap between us hung there like a warning neither of us could ignore. That evening, the first crack appeared. I was in her kitchen, rinsing dirt from my hands, when a voice called from the front door. "Claire?" I froze. She froze. The name, Claire, hung in the air like a secret I wasn't supposed to know. A man's silhouette filled the doorway. Older, maybe late 40s, in a pressed shirt, holding himself like he still belonged in that house. Her jaw tightened. "Mark! You should have called." "I did." "You didn't answer." His eyes flicked to me, narrowing. "And this is—" Before I could open my mouth, she said, "The neighbor. Helping with the garden." The lie was simple, believable. But my throat closed around it anyway. Mark didn't look convinced. He gave a short nod, the kind meant to dismiss me. I'll wait in the living room. When he disappeared, she leaned against the counter, not looking at me. You should go. Who is he? She shook her head, voice low. Not tonight. I wanted to push, to demand an answer, but the tremor in her hand stopped me. I left through the back, heart pounding, every nerve raw. That night I swore I'd keep my distance. Swore I wouldn't go back. Swore I'd make this easier on both of us. But the next morning, before I could even finish my coffee, my phone buzzed. A single message. The lavender needs water. Tonight. I stared at the words, pulse quickening. She could have asked anyone. She shouldn't have asked me. And yet I knew I'd go. The lavender didn't need water. It had rained all afternoon, soaking the soil dark and heavy. I knew it. She knew it. But still I went. Her porch light was off when I arrived. Only the kitchen lamp glowed faintly, golden against the dusk. I stood at her back gate for a long minute, pulse hammering. Every voice of reason said turn around. Instead, I pushed it open. She was inside, leaning over the counter with a glass of wine. Her hair was damp again, like she just stepped out of a shower. She didn't look surprised to see me. Almost like she'd been waiting. You got my message, she said. Yeah. But the garden's fine. Her lips curved, but not into a smile. I know. The silence after that was unbearable. I wanted to say 100 things, ask why she kept pulling me closer and then pushing me away, why she hid pieces of herself like she was ashamed of being seen. Instead, I blurted, Who is Mark? Her face went still. The stem of her glass trembled slightly as she set it down. He's nobody you need to worry about. That's not an answer. Her eyes snapped to mine sharp, but under it I caught something else, exhaustion. He's my ex-husband. He comes around when he remembers I exist. The admission hung between us. I should have left it there, but jealousy clawed up my throat. Do you still? No. Her voice cut me off, too fast. Then, quieter. No. Not for a long time. My chest ached with something I couldn't name. Relief? Anger? Maybe both. I took a step closer before I realized I'd moved. She didn't back away. This is crazy, I said, almost to myself. She let out a dry laugh. Finally. You've caught up. But her voice shook at the edges, and that was worse than anything she could have said. Because it meant she wasn't untouched. It meant she was standing in the same fire I was. Then why keep calling me? My voice was louder than I meant, raw. Why the garden? Why the texts? If you don't want this. Her hand shot out, fingers gripping my wrist. Harder than before. Don't. I froze. Her eyes searched mine, wide, desperate. If you name it, it's real. And if it's real, her voice faltered, then it can break. The room was too quiet, the kind of silence where you hear your own breathing. My skin burned under her touch. I should have pulled away. I didn't. You think I can just forget? I whispered. Her hand slipped down, brushing against my palm before she pulled back like she'd touched fire. You're supposed to. I stared at her, chest rising and falling too fast. I can't. Her lips parted, eyes shining with something that could have been anger or longing. She took one step toward me, then stopped. The distance between us was inches. A single breath. One wrong move. And then, the air between us buzzed, one breath away from breaking. And then the sharp trill of a phone split it. Her phone. Claire flinched like it had burned her. She grabbed it off the counter, screen lighting her face. I couldn't see the message, but I saw the way her shoulders stiffened. What is it? I asked. She hesitated, then turned the screen toward me. A single text stark against the dark. He knows. My stomach dropped. Who? My voice came out rough. She set the phone down like it weighed too much. Mark. He was at the hardware store this morning. He saw me asking if they had more tomato steaks. He asked why I needed so many. He's not stupid. A hot rush of panic spread through me. So he thinks, what? That you're more than a neighbor. I tried to laugh it off, but the sound cracked halfway. We haven't even, that doesn't matter. Her voice was sharp now, urgent. It doesn't take much for a story to start. People see what they want to see. And Mark, he'll make sure they see it. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. Why do you care what he thinks? He's your ex. She looked at me then, eyes dark, tired. Because he still has a key to the house. Because he still talks to the neighbors. Because I spent 15 years teaching people who I was, his wife, the stable one, the responsible one. And now, if they believe him. Her voice trailed off. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. It hit me then, this wasn't just about us. It was about her life, her reputation, the image she'd spent decades holding together. And me? I was a crack in the glass. For the first time, I wondered if maybe she regretted it. Not asking me to water the garden, but everything after. I stepped back, hands balling into fists. So what? You want me to disappear? Pretend I don't exist? Her eyes softened, guilt flickering across her face. I don't want that. Then what do you want? My voice broke on it, too raw. She didn't answer. The silence between us stretched until it felt unbearable. Then, faintly, from the front of the house, the sound of a key sliding into the lock. Claire's face drained of color. She grabbed my arm, her nails biting into my skin. Out the back. Now. Claire, go. The door at the front clicked open. Heavy footsteps crossed the threshold. A man's voice called, casual but with an edge. Claire? You home? She pushed me toward the back door, eyes pleading. I froze for half a second, wanting to stay, to fight, to claim something I hadn't even touched yet. But the sound of Mark's voice carried closer. Her last words before I slipped out into the night burned in my ears. Don't let him see you. The night I slipped out her back door, I told myself it was over. Whatever this was, whatever I thought it could be, it had just been shattered by the sound of her ex-husband's key in the lock. But 2 days later, I found myself back at her fence. Not because she asked. Because I couldn't stand the silence. She was already outside clipping dead roses. She didn't look up right away. When she finally did, her expression was unreadable. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. I know. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. But I can't stay away. The clippers paused in her hand. She let out a laugh, brittle as glass. You think I can? You think this is easy for me? I don't know what to think, I admitted. 1 second, you're pulling me in. The next, you're pushing me out. Just tell me what you want. Do you want me to disappear? Her jaw worked, but no words came. She set the clippers down, hard, on the stone wall, then pressed both hands to her face. Claire! When she lowered them, her eyes were wet. I don't get to want things anymore, she whispered. That broke something in me. I crossed the yard in 2 strides. That's not true. It is, she insisted, voice trembling. I had a marriage that fell apart. A life I thought would last. Now I'm the woman who drinks her wine alone and pretends she doesn't care. If I let myself want you, if I let this be real, what does that make me? Human, I said. It makes you human. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, like she wanted to believe me but couldn't let herself. I'm 22, I went on. I don't have it figured out. But I know this. My throat tightened, but I forced it out. I can't pretend it doesn't matter. You matter. She closed her eyes, shoulders shaking. For a moment, I thought she'd turn away. Instead, she reached up, fingers brushing my cheek, hesitant, trembling. "I've been so afraid," she said. "Of being seen. Of being judged. Of ruining you before you even start." I caught her hand, pressed it against my face. "You haven't ruined me. You've made me want something I didn't know I could want." Her breath caught. And then, finally, she stopped fighting. She leaned in, just enough that I could feel her warmth, just enough that there was no mistaking it anymore. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But we didn't need to. The space between us, charged and fragile, said everything. "I can't promise this will last," she whispered. "I don't care." For the first time, she smiled. A real smile. And it was enough to burn the fear away. From the street, a car door slammed, jolting us apart. Reality rushing back in. She stepped back, eyes still on mine. "Tomorrow," she said, barely audible. And though I didn't know if tomorrow would ever come, for the first time, I believed it might. The next day, I walked past her house 3 times before I got the courage to stop. Her curtains were drawn, the porch empty. I almost convinced myself she'd changed her mind, that tomorrow had just been another way of saying goodbye. But then the door opened. She stepped out, hair loose, eyes tired but softer than I'd ever seen them. For once, she didn't look like she was bracing herself for the world. She just looked at me. "You came," she said. "I told you I would." We stood there, awkward in the daylight, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on us. Mark, the neighbors, the whispers that would come. The age between us stretched like a canyon. And yet none of it stopped me from wanting to cross the space to her. "Last night scared me," she admitted. "The idea of being found out. Of losing everything I've tried to hold together." I nodded. "I know." She hesitated, then stepped closer. "But what scares me more is pretending this doesn't matter. Pretending you don't matter." For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then I laughed, shaky, relieved. "I was afraid you'd say the opposite." Her hand brushed mine, barely there. "Maybe I still should. But you won't." Her smile was faint but real. She didn't answer, and she didn't need to. We didn't rush it. We didn't dive into something reckless, not after everything. We just sat together on her porch steps, the sun sinking low, the street alive with kids on bikes and the sound of a lawn mower somewhere down the block. Normal life went on, like it always did. And in the middle of it, there was us. Quiet, complicated, maybe impossible, but real. She leaned against me, just enough that her shoulder touched mine. No secrets, no masks, no pretense. Just her, just me. "You'll probably regret this someday," she murmured, eyes on the fading sky. "Maybe," I said. "But not tonight." We sat there until the stars came out, saying nothing more. The world would keep circling with all its judgments, its rules, its gossip. Mark would still lurk around, and neighbors would still talk. But for that moment, none of it touched us. Because for the first time since she asked me to water her garden, we weren't pretending anymore. And sometimes that's enough. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Speech Balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?